Okay, so every day we wanted to learn a little bit more about the tool that we're working with, the Visual Studio IDE as used within Visual C Sharp 2010 Express Edition. And so today we're going to look at a couple things, code snippets, and then also managing the windows in the main area. And then we're going to go back to yesterday's topic of debugging. We're going to work with the immediate window, which we didn't we kind of ignored yesterday. Today we're going to give it its proper due. Okay, first of all, through the memorization exercises that you've been going through every day, you should be learning the syntax. However, it's not always easy to remember all the syntax for, all of the decision statements and for properties and for everything, especially as you're getting started. So, and then secondly, you know how we love to save keystrokes and to be a little bit more efficient with our typing. Saves a lot of time, right? Especially if we're not, expert typists. So fortunately, Visual Studio has something called code snippets, and they work like this. So for example, let's create a new, we'll just use one of our write line method from earlier in the day. Suppose that I need to define an if statement. Watch this. I'm just going to type in if, and then I'm going to hit tab on my keyboard twice. And it creates a little template for the if statement here. If message is not equal to null, then we'll slip that in there, right? Okay, so that's an easy way to remember the if syntax. All right, so if isn't so difficult, but how about, for example, do you remember the order in which all of the arguments for the for statement go? What if I just hit for and then tab twice? Use the tab key twice. Tab, tab. All right, and here you can see that I have a little template for my for statement. And what if I don't want to use I? What if I wanted to use count instead? Well, I'll just change the word or the letter I to count, and I'm going to hit tab on my keyboard once. Notice that it automatically renamed the other instances of I to the word count. And it puts me into the next field, the length, which I need to change. So these templates are more than just templates. They're intelligent in so much that they know, first of all, if you change an identifier in one place, to go ahead and change it in everywhere where it occurs throughout this little template. And then secondly, what are the blanks that need to be filled in, like Mad Libs, right? So I could do, if I had some kind of an array here, my array dot length, or I can just fill in the number 10 or whatever, and I can hit tab and go back and forth. I'm just hitting tab. I'm going back and forth between the two fill in the blank areas using the tab key. Okay, so that's the for statement. How about the switch? Tab, tab, and here we go. Okay, it's as easy as that. It automatically sets up a default. We'll just have to create our cases, case A, and the break. All right, and so on. All right, another tricky one was properties, right? What if I did this? Here. I need to remember this whole get set syntax and what does it do and all that stuff. So here I'm going to go prop full tab tab, and it creates not only the property, but it also creates the private field that will actually store my value. So here what I'll do is I'll change this to the string, and when I hit tab on the keyboard, notice that it changed our public property to also be a string. And now we're going to work with my var. We'll call this my other value. And you can see it changed the references to the my var to my other value. And if I hit tab 2 more times, I can get to this is my property name. Okay? So I can just keep tabbing in between all of these. Pretty neat, right? And there are probably about a dozen more that you could benefit from. If you're ever curious, what you can do is, let's see where this is at now. Insert snippet. There's a way to get to this from the keyboard. So Control K X. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to hold down the Control button on my keyboard, and then I'm going to hit K, and then let up, and then hit X. And you can see now I get into the Insert Snippet dialog. And so here I'll just go to Visual C Sharp, hit the Tab key, and now I can see all of the snippets that are available. And some of them we are use keywords that we haven't even talked about yet. We have used while, so let's go ahead and hit the while, and it inserts while template. We can also create our own. Bit of an advanced topic. There is a snippet editor, so you can create your own snippets, and then basically take advantage of the exact same functionality. Just got to copy an XML file into the right folder, or use one of these snippet editors that will do all that for you. Super valuable little tip there. The challenge is, and why I didn't tell you this originally, is because you shouldn't be lazy. You should go ahead and be able to type the real command in without having to rely on these. So as long as you know what it is that how to form a perfect for statement or if statement or while statement, I have no problem. In fact, I strongly encourage you to use the code snippets. If you don't use it as a crutch. Go ahead and learn the actual syntax, right? All right, so another thing that I want to talk about right now is managing the tabs in the main area. And this is a little bit more of a visual feature of the IDE. So, for example, what you can do is reorder. I'm just dragging a tab around and basically putting them in some order that's important to me. So here I reverse the order by just dragging the tag and moving it. You already know that you can use the X to close a given tab. To open up a file into the main area, you can just double click it from the Solution Explorer. Okay, those are all things you know. There's also this little down arrow that allows you to select which tab you want to work with, which is particularly useful whenever the tabs run off the viewable area here in the bar. So if I wanted to activate auto, or if I wanted to activate the program.cs, I can select it from the little drop down arrow. But there's more. I can right click and select new horizontal tab group, and so now I can be working in two windows at once. Here I have the auto.cs, and so for reference, if I need to look back to my program.cs, I can be working in two files visually at the same time. If I want to, say, take this assembly robot.cs class and I want to move it down here, I can basically rip it away and then put it into this tab area, and now I have it, both of them here in this lower tab area. Or I can move, right click and select move to previous tab group, and it moves it back to where it was, and I can do the same with the original one, and now we're all back in one little window. Okay, and I think you can do the same thing with a vertical tab group, so you can go side by side here. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, another thing that we can do, I'm just gonna drag and drop this right back. This is a new feature in Visual Studio 2010. Say I have dual monitors and I want to be able to use all my screen real estate. Well, I could do one of two things. I could go full screen with this application so it expands across both monitors or all the monitors that I have. And I had an application I used to use to help manage things in that regard. But there's another way to do this as well. I can just rip this out by grabbing in this tab and just ripping it out. And now it is an independent window on its own. It can live anywhere that I want it to live. All right, so I can put it over on another monitor if I wanted to use that window there. And that applies not just to these code windows, but all of it: the Solution Explorer, the toolbox, the error listing, and so on. And then if I wanted to put it back, all I need to do is just either hover over this little main area cursor that pops up, drag it back into the bar where I can start seeing the outline of that tab as it would appear there, or I can drag it into a new vertical or horizontal tab group, just like we did before, or close it down. Okay, pretty neat. So that's how we manage windows in the main area, or the tabs in the main area, by creating tab groups. Oh, there's one other cool feature too. So, for example, this auto class starts getting long, and I have all of my private fields defined up here, my properties defined up here at the top, but I need to work down here at the bottom, and I want to reference, though, these here at the top. So what can I do? There's this little splitter here, and so by dragging it and pulling it down, I can look at two instances of the exact same auto.cs file. It's just I'm at two different positions within that, and I can, resize and then ultimately get rid of it. Okay, so that's splitting a single window. All right, so finally what we want to do is take a look at our at the immediate window. So we have this example from previously. Let's make sure it still runs and I didn't do anything crazy with it. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set a breakpoint here. And I'm going to run the application in debug mode like we saw yesterday. Now, in the immediate window here, I can do some interesting things. I can use the question mark and I can start querying values. Now, we saw yesterday how I could hover over and get a value of an object and see all of its member fields or properties. But I can also do it this way. So my car dot engine dot size, and then hit the return key on my keyboard, and you can see it returns V8. So notice that it didn't affect the debug window at all. I'm still going to execute this next line of code. I'm just able to kind of work with the same values that are currently in memory outside of the context of the application as it's executing, which makes this extremely interesting as well. We're going to do this. My car.engine, let's back up a little bit here. New line of code. My car.engine dot size equals, and we'll give it a new name, Hemi. Okay, so now when I do this again, my car dot engine dot size, and I hit enter, it returns the word Hemi. So outside of the context of the application as it's currently running, I am changing values in memory using the immediate window. That's pretty cool, and it affects the application as it runs. So, for example, if I wanted to, let's see if I can do this. I know I can do this previously. If I wanted to right-click, I guess I changed the wrong thing here. Let's change horsepower. So my car.engine.horsepower equals 1000. We'll just make it crazy, right? Okay, so we set that to horsepower. Now I want to rerun line number 34. Well, it's a problem because we've already executed line 34. So what's going to happen? Well, what I can do is just put my mouse cursor on line 34. I'm going to right-click that line of code, and I'm going to say set next statement. And look there, the yellow arrow and the yellow line of code is about to execute out of order this line of code again. So here we're going to just step over. And let's take a look at what was written to screen here. 1000. That's what I set in my immediate window. So whatever I do in my immediate window, it's going to affect the application as it's currently running line by line in our code. All right, so there's some magic for you, some ways to impress your friends and neighbors with your knowledge of Visual Studio 2010 and its ability to allow you to really play with the application while it's running and change values and read values and things of that nature. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the IDE overview for today. Come back tomorrow and we'll have something interesting about Visual Studio again for you to take a look at. All right, so in the next video we're going to take our first look at the Unified Modeling Language. We're just going to look at how to represent a class as a diagram using this modeling language and why you'd even want to do that. We'll talk to you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.